So remember one thing, flow designer can be used as business rule. Flow designer can be used as schedule job. Flow designer can be used as inbound email action. Flow designer can be used to send an emails as well. Using flow designer, you can send an email. So using flow designer, you can create a flow designer as workflow as well. So you can actually create a flow designer in place of workflow. Okay. So using flow designer, you can actually transform the data. Using flow designer, you can actually do the integration. So what not, guys? Everything you can do using flow designer. So it is actually replacement of many things. It can be used. It can be used as business rule. It can be used as scheduled job. It can be used as inbound email action. It can be used as workflow. It also can be used to send notifications. It also can be used for transform the data. It also can be used as integrations as well. It also can be used for integrations as well. So which is actually one of the powerful tools. So this is actually one thing which we guys have to remember. The second point that you guys have to remember is using flow designer, you don't have to write too much scripting. You don't have to write too much scripting. So you can actually achieve the requirement without scripting as well. Sometimes you may have to write the scripting, which is very less. Comparatively workflow, comparatively business rule, comparatively schedule job, comparatively transform scripts. So it is actually very less scripting is required in the flow designer. The flow designer, you will also write scripting, but still very less scripting. Okay. So now you guys can understand how useful the flow designer feature is. Okay. So in the left navigation or application navigator, you can just type flow designer. Under process automation, you will find a module called flow designer. Okay. So you will just click on the flow designer here. So I'll practically show you how exactly this flow designer will work. So you guys are able to understand, right, why flow designer is popular. So every customer is now using flow designer. So they stopped using workflows. Very few customers are using. So in the going further, people don't use workflows because ServiceNow will never support workflows going further. ServiceNow is not supporting means nobody will actually use that. Okay. So guys, remember one thing. So here you can just click a new flow designer or subflow or action. So these are the components that you see in the flow designer. So when you want to create a flow designer, you will just start with flow. Okay. You will start with flow. So when you start with the flow, right, you will actually select the flow name here. Okay. Create a incident. So this is actually the flow that I want to create. Submit. So when you create the flow, right, first and foremost thing that you guys have to deal with is trigger. Trigger means condition. Okay. So it is still processing. Let it process. So you guys can take the tour. You guys can skip the tour. I'm actually skipping the tour. So first and foremost thing that you guys have to understand is this trigger. In this trigger, you will understand whether we have to use flow designer as business rule or scheduled job or inbound email action or workflow or for notification sending. So you will actually understand here in the trigger condition. So here you will specify. So you want to use this flow as business rule. So you have to use this some components here. So this trigger here, you will actually specify how exactly you want to use this flow designer. So you will just click on trigger. So here we have actually three type of triggers in the flow designer. So here we have actually three type of triggers in the flow designer. So one is record based. So here, if you want to use flow designer as business rule, you will actually use these three things. Okay. Here, if you want to use flow designer as business rule, you will actually use record based trigger. So record based trigger in the sense created, updated, created or updated. So here, if you want to use this flow designer as scheduled job, so you will actually use date based trigger. Okay, so there are actually three type of triggers. One is record based, date based, and application based. So you will understand. So if you want to use this flow designer as business rule, you will actually go for record based. So if you want to use this flow designer as a scheduled job, you will actually go for date based. If you want to use this flow designer as inbound email action, you will select application based trigger, and you will select inbound email. If you want to use this flow designer as workflow, you will actually select service catalog. Okay. So here, if you want to send a notification on SLA tasks. So SLA tasks are something like, I'll actually explain you guys. Just give me a moment. So now you guys are understanding, right? Record based trigger, date based trigger, we have actually application based trigger. So in the application based trigger, you understand inbound email, you understand service catalog. So you might get confused with the SLA task. Okay, what is this SLA task? So here, right, if you go here, if you go to the incident table, so this is actually task SLA. So whenever SLA is triggered, it will actually create a task SLA. So on this task SLA records, right? So if you are not actually meeting this SLA within 30 minutes, it will become true. Once it becomes true, right, it will actually send a notification. So that is what here it is actually about SLA task. Okay. So likewise, guys, you will be using all these things based on your requirement. Okay. Suppose if I want to use this as business rule. So as soon as problem record is created, okay, or as soon as incident record is created, okay. So here I have actually named it as create incident, right? So consider it as problem. Okay. So select a trigger, I'm actually creating. So whenever incident is created, so I have to create a problem record. So here you will just click on actions. These are actually predefined actions that ServiceNow has provided us. So without scripting, you can create a record. So usually what we do, we will use glide record to create a record. We will use glide record to update a record. We will use glide record to delete a record. So those are all the things that he has actually created as actions. Okay. So create record. So here you will actually select create record action. Okay. So on which table you want to create a record, you need to specify here. So problem. So here I have actually specified create problem. So you will select a problem as table name. So here, right, you will actually specify fields as, so color, not color field is not there. Short description, problem statement, problem statement. So in the problem statement, I want to pass incident short description. I'm actually creating an incident. In the incident, you would have specified the short description, right? Same short description, I want to pass it to problem short description. So how exactly I will pass? So here, right, you will be able to see these are called data pills. These are called data pills. Okay. So here in the trigger, what we have specified, whenever a record is created. So that particular record values you will actually see in the trigger. This is actually the trigger, right? Those trigger values you will actually see here. These are called data pills. So first one, this is actually first action. First action name is create record. So in the create record, you are creating a problem, right? So here, right, I am actually passing incident short description here. So how exactly I will pass incident short description here is, I will actually expand this one. So once I expand this one, right, I will actually get the short description value. So you will actually drag the short description here. So this is actually one way to drag the data fields. Okay. Or, so I am actually adding one more field, description. So from here, right, you will just click on this one. So trigger, record created, incident. In the incident, what is the field that you want? Description. So here, right, you are actually passing incident short description. Here you are passing incident description. In the problem description, you are passing incident description. So let me just open problem form. Okay. What are the mandatory field? Assignment group is actually mandatory field. Okay. So now, right, I am actually filling the mandatory fields. Problem statement, description, assignment group is also mandatory field. So assignment group also I am actually passing it from incident only. So you will select trigger, record created, incident record, assignment group. Okay. So here, right, you will actually click on done once you are done with that. Okay. So now you will actually save this one. Saving is nothing but temporarily you are saving it. Okay. Once saving is done, you must activate to make this flow designer work. So you must activate this one. Okay. So in the flow designer, right, they have actually provided a powerful feature called test. So you can directly test this flow designer here itself, whether this is working properly or not. Okay. So whether this is working properly or not, we will directly check here by clicking on test here. Suppose, let us say, if this incident record is created, so what you will do, so you will actually run the test for this incident, any problem record is created or not, we will actually check. So your test has finished running, view the flow execution details. So here you can actually track everything. New incident record is created and create record. So this problem record has been created. this problem record has been created. So what is the incident that we have used? So in the description, I'm actually problem default value. The assignment group, it is in the network. So same incident network is actually has been added here. So there is no short description here. That is why here there is no short description, and description is populated from default value in the problem. So now I have actually tested this from this flow designer directly. So you can actually use this test feature while designing the flow designer. You will actually use this one, whether our flow is working properly or not. To test this one, right, you will use this feature. Okay, so now, right, we will actually test. Before that, what I want to do is I want to make some modification here. So in the problem, not related incidents. Just a while, guys. Just give me a while. So okay, guys. So here, right, I'm actually selecting first reported by as this incident number. So this record number directly I'm actually dragging it here. Again, I have to save this one. Again, I have to activate this one. Okay. So once it is activated only, then it will work, guys. Remember, if it is not activated, it will not work. Now, what I do is I will actually go and create a new incident here. So assignment group, I'm actually selecting as cab approval, test 5678, test 3456. So I'm going to create an incident here. Once I create an incident, immediately the flow will be triggered. Once the flow is triggered, immediately it will actually create a problem record. So I am just creating an incident record here. I have created an incident record here. So we will see whether the problem record is created or not. The record is not created. So we will go to the flow designer, and here we will actually check whether the problem has been, whether this flow has been triggered or not. So here, if you see executions, so here in the execution space, you will actually check whether the flow has been triggered or not. So here it says flow is not triggered. This is the one which was triggered when we clicked on test. Earlier we clicked on test, right? During that time it has actually triggered. So after that, whenever we create the incident, right, this flow is not triggered. So this flow is not triggered. So we have to identify the reasons why this flow is not triggered. So on this incident table, right, somehow the flows are not getting triggered, guys. So I had actually faced the same issue earlier as well. So what we do is we will actually give a try with another table. There is some issue with the incident table. So I had actually faced this issue when I was actually working on incident table as well in the past. So later, if I if I use the table which is actually custom table, right, which is working fine. Okay. So as the time has come, I have to explain few more things here. So in this flow designer, right, this flow designer can also be triggered using script as well. This flow designer will be triggered using script as well. So how exactly you will trigger this flow designer using script? So here, right, you will actually copy this script here. So you will actually copy this script here. Okay. Understand? You will copy this script here. You will actually paste this script on the business rule. From the business rule, you can trigger this flow designer. Okay. But I don't use this one because I am actually creating this flow designer to use this as business rule. So once a record is created, again I have to trigger the business rule. Through the business rule, I have to trigger this flow designer. So this doesn't make sense, right? I want to use this flow designer as business rule purpose. Then why do I have to trigger this flow designer again from business rule? So just imagine, guys, you can actually copy this. You can actually trigger this flow designer using this script. Okay. So using this script, you can actually trigger this flow designer. This flow designer can be triggered from UI actions, business rules, script includes, scheduled jobs, script actions. So any server side script. Okay. So like you trigger the workflow using script, right? You trigger the flow designer as well using scripting. Okay. Clear, right? Okay. We will try to create one more instance. So I will actually debug why exactly it is actually not triggering the flow design. Okay. See, now you understand the basic things of flow designer, right? How exactly are we using flow designer? So what is this trigger? First and foremost thing, when you are creating the flow designer, right, you must remember the trigger. So we have actually three type of triggers: record based, date based, application based. So based on your requirement, if you want to use it as a business rule, you can actually select created or updated or created or updated. So if you want to use that as scheduled job, you will actually select a daily, weekly, monthly, repeat one, something like that. If you want to use it as inbound email action, you will select this one. If you want to use it as workflow, you will use this one. If you want to use it as SLA Task, you will use this one. So once trigger condition is set up, right? So you will actually come here as actions. So what are actions? So these are actually something that predefined actions. Predefined actions in the sense using scripting. Using scripting, we'll be creating the records, right? Without scripting, you can actually create records. So like actions such as create record, actions such as update record. So we have actually predefined things here. So usually you will use create record, right, to create a record. But here you don't use create record here. Usually you will actually use create record to query the records, right? We have actually action called lookup records. Lookup records will actually query the so lookup records will actually query the tables. So lookup records will query the tables. Lookup attachment will actually query for the attachment. So likewise, we have actually out of box predefined functions. So using which you don't have to write scripting. Okay. So here we understand these things. We have actually data pills. These data pills are like, these data pills are related to this trigger. The data pills that you are seeing here, right? These are related to this trigger. So the data pills that you are seeing here, right? These data pills are related to this one create record, this particular action. So likewise, guys, you will be using these data pills. You will be designing the workflow. Sorry, flow designer. So you can actually either drag and drop. You can actually either drag and drop, or you can actually dot walk here. So like you have actually dot walk something like this here. Okay. So now, right, I'm actually going to this incident here. I'm going to the business rules. So now I will try to create one new instance. So let me just refresh this one. I'm just creating an incident here. So once incident is created, flow designer has to be triggered. This flow designer has to create a record here. 14 minutes ago. So the flow itself is not triggered. Flow itself is not triggered. So rather than incident table, we will take some other table, guys. I'm actually facing some challenges with this one. So we'll do one thing. Whenever a case record is created, it has to create a case task. Okay. Now I am actually going here, case management. I'm going to inactivate all these business rules. I inactivated all these business rules. So what my requirement is, whenever I create a case record, it has to create a record on case task table. Okay. So I am going to create another flow designer here. I am deactivating this one. I don't want this. So we have to create a record on which table? Case task table. Short description same as case short description. So now we will actually create a case record and we will check whether the case task record is created or not. View underscore case underscore task dot list. So how many records are there? 21,625 records are there. So as soon as I create a case here, so a record should have been created in the case task table. See here, 21,622 records are there. That means a record has been created. So we will check whether the record has been created or not. So just a while ago, a record has been created on the case task table. So which is actually this one, which is actually from Flow Designer. Okay, which is actually from Flow Designer. So there is some issue with the incident table. That is the reason the flow is not working on the incident table. Even I had actually faced that issue when I was actually working on in our previous session as well. We had actually faced the same issue. Not really sure why that is only happening for incident table. Okay.
Sir, can we check advanced view that we have mentioned in the incident table?
Incident table, which one?
Advanced view. Sorry, in the flow designer itself. That whether.
In the flow designer, right?
Yes.
Whenever created advanced options.
No, this is for create task table. If we go to the table that the flow designer that we have created for incident.
So this is the one. What is your expectation here?
Sir, in the run for current table, if we change any other option, then will it work? Like because yeah, run on current and extended tables.
Okay. Yeah, this is actually a good catch, Deepsika. Very nice. Okay. I did not actually notice this one. This is actually a good catch. So run on current and extended tables. Not really sure whether I have selected this one here or not. So run only on current table. Yeah, got it, Deepsika. Good point.
It may work, sir, because it doesn't work on out of box table. I was checking out of box created tables. So
okay. So likewise, see the same requirement you can actually do it using business rule as well. You will select either before or after business rule or less business rule. You will select operation as insert. You will write glide record. Through the glide record, you can actually create a record on the case task table. The same thing you can do using the business rule as well. But you are not using business rule here. You are using flow designer. In the flow designer, you have actually selected created table name, and whenever a record is created, so here what are you doing? You are actually creating a record on case task table without scripting. Here what you need to understand is how to drag and drop, how to dot walk the fields. You must understand. Okay. So now we will understand how to use flow designer as scheduled job. Okay. Send reminders. So here daily, if you want to send, you will actually select daily. Daily at what time? So you will also select the time as well. Daily at 12 a.m. So daily at 12 a.m. this will actually the scheduled job. This flow designer will run. Okay. So what I have to check? I have to check the incidents which are actually in resolved state. So daily I will actually query the records which are actually in resolved state, and I will actually close all the resolved incidents in. I will actually check the resolved incidents and I will actually close those resolved incidents. So how I will actually query the resolved incidents is that. So here you will actually use lookup records. So lookup records is something like which is used to query the records. So like you use glide record to query the records, right? You will use lookup records here to query the records. So lookup records on which table? So I am going to look up records on incident table here. Incident table. So here you can actually use condition here. So condition is actually state is resolved. So maximum results you can actually increase this one. So once you query all the records which are in resolved state, right? So you will have to loop them. To loop them, you will have to use for each statement here. So you click on this one, right? You will actually use flow logic here. In the flow logic, you will use for each here. For each is like used to loop the records. So you will actually loop incident records. All the incident records you have queried. Okay. So what you do is each record, so you will actually update the record. So you will update the record. So which record do you update? Incident record. Okay. So what do you update? State field as closed. Okay. Understand, right? So likewise, you will be updating all the records. So you will save this one. You will activate this one. So if it is scheduled job, we would have written scripting here. We did not write any scripting here. So I am just clicking on test here. I am running the scheduled job. So whatever the records that are actually in resolved state, that I want to move it to closed state. So this action is not run. No record is actually in the resolved state. So that is why it is actually showing 0 of 0. So we will make few incidents in resolved state. So I have kept all these incidents in resolved state. So I have to move it to closed state. So we have to check before we move it to closed state. There might be some conditions. So while moving it to closed state, some fields are getting mandatory here. So resolution code and resolution nodes are getting mandatory. So we have to fill in these two details as well. So from the flow designer, so before updating this record, right? This is actually Now I will actually test the flow. So how many records that are actually in resolve state? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So total 7 records are actually in resolve state. So we will check whether all the resolved incidents are closed or not. So we will actually refresh this list here, so that we will be able to understand whether this is closed or not. So every day the flow designer will run. It will actually query the records which are actually in resolved state, which will actually mark it as closed state, so that the flow designer now will work as scheduled job.